Welcome to Carolina Sculpture Studio. My name's Clint Button and I'm a granite sculptor. Welcome to video number 143 of the Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship. All right, we're gonna hop right into the action here. I'm busy axing this stone and we'll start right off. I've started some work just trying to keep this going. So show you, we're gonna trim the top of the stone off a little bit to facilitate light. Because we got an overhang, we haven't cut it yet, and then I'm going to start axing it and show you a few things that are popping up along the way. So thanks for coming in and check it out. Okay, by taking my lamp apart, unscrewing it, I can put it up on top of the stone. I cut this off so this overhang wouldn't cast a shadow and interfere. And this shows a couple of the problems with, see if I can get it the way it will show. See, I saw it vertically to take this off, and this is waste. This isn't a big deal. But I still got a couple of little, there's one deep there, and a stripe there, and a stripe there, that if I'd sawed this face like this, like that, I would have had problems I had to clean up. That's why I don't do it. But now I can take this lamp, put it out on the edge of the stone like that, and I can read it really well. I can see all my axe all the way down. See how? See, there's some corners, there's a line across there, got a little bit of undulation there. See all the way down. It's a pretty good stone, but it's not perfect. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to work. I can take my tri-square, hold it up, then I can look up and I can read it really fast. See, I got to come down to that top just a little bit. And come down some there, and I'll work this across. I'm going to strive to do diagonal work here because these lines go across. So I'm going to try to keep diagonals to lower this and get this evened up to where it looks like I've got as much drop here as I do here, and then I got an even crown, and then I'll clean the crown off. I'm just going to go right down very methodically, just work it off, and I'll take a straight edge and I'll check. I got a 4 and a 5 foot. I'll check my straight this way as well, just to make sure that if anything, I want the top to be a little further back than the bottom, because if it's tipped like this, and this is exaggerated, it'll show that shadow. If it's tipped in a little bit, the light will never really reveal that it's crooked. But, you know, even looking at it just like that, that's already pretty straight. So all you gotta do is do the final wash to clean it off. It ought to be pretty awesome. All right, I'm just settling for some action. As you're axing, and this is a good habit to be in all the time. When I'm roughing stuff off, I'm not as concerned. But see how these lines tip? See how they bend and they curve? And some are tipped a little bit like this, and some are tipped more. The closer you get to your final work, make sure that you maintain as consistent like a 45. I mean, you're going 45 here, and you're going 90 degrees to that, 45 there, you're going 90 degrees to that. You're going straight up and down, you're going 90 degrees straight across, okay? If you have lines, see, I don't know if they'll show. There's a few here that are still bent. Those errant lines will show up, where the ones that are all uniform will disappear because they'll wipe each other out. You'll have some going this way and some going this way. But the ones that are crooked, the ones that bent, and this is a good way to see it, really stand out. See how that's kind of all over the road? Okay, well, we still got to take some off here. Up here, same light. See how that's nice and straight and smooth? Looks great. Okay, you want that nice, consistent, with straight lines. You don't want them to bend or trail off, because you'll miss some of those curves and they'll jump out like crazy. You'll really see it. So I still got to do a horizontal and a vertical, but I'm going to get my 45 on to get this all blended down first. Then I go back and do my final wash, and it'll just, wow. See how smooth that looks up top, just compared to right there? Okay, I have only taken off just a tiny bit. Just do it accurate, be right, okay? You also want to do that so you can clean up your edges, because your edges will have a little bit of margin where you cut it in, and you want to eliminate as much of that cockeyed rumble and rough looking stuff as you possibly can, okay? Back to action. As you axe this stone, you're going to understand ever more and more about what I talk about when I say visual noise, because you're going to see areas in the stone that are rough and areas that are not rough, and usually the areas that are rough are the ones that are deep you hadn't cut. We've got some picks, see, like, and this looks a lot worse shadow, but that's a little black flake that popped out, and then there's another one beside it, there's another one over here, and that's just where the stone is soft. One up here, and you can chase those forever, and you'll literally run out of stone because you go all the way through the stone, because wherever you chase it, the more you push it, you'll open up other ones the same way. Now just above this, a little bit of rough spot, and it's just a little bit lower, so as I finish this off, I'll eliminate some of that. This is where having super sharp tools really makes a difference. Now you can see I've got down to about here. You see all this visual noise. See all the stripe and stripe and stripe and stripe. But if you look through here, you don't see any of that. And it was all that way. Got a little remnant right there. And I got to wash over some, because I think that's still got a little bit of height. But you just slowly lower it. See, I'll take care of this, and as I resolve that carefully, I'll get rid of that stripe. You see, these are just disappearing as I go down the face of the stone and axe it off really nice. This is really cool stuff to do, and a lot of people just don't understand it. So a lot of people just rough this into shape and then frost it, dust it, whatever, with sandblast or steel shot, just eliminate tool marks. But you don't have to. You can actually axe it old-fashioned. Really nice stone. All right, about halfway done. Back to work. Now, as I'm cutting these, if I see this, like these undulations in the stone, if I go just follow through them, all I'm going to do is make them deeper. I've got to span them. I've got to work like here and here and here and here. And what that'll do is that little valley will just narrow down until I can span it completely and safely. And then I can take it out. If you just axe right through these dips, you'll never do anything except scrape the stone. It'll have all the same stuff. You want to eliminate those by working the high points, the adjacent high areas beside them down, to bring those up, and then to capture them with your tool to where you can go all the way across and clean them up completely. Because if all you do is just go through them, nothing's going to change. It's going to look like crap, and you're going to be way out of shape. All right, so make sure to work the high spots down, leave the low spots where they are, bring them up. All right, it's the end of the day. I'm pretty beat. Now, if we run the light on it like this, looks pretty good. If we push the light to the side and let it wrap, see I'm going just around to the back of the stone, we can see more of, there's still some stuff that needs to be cleaned up. I started in here, ran horizontal and horizontal and vertical, and that'll help lift off. See, there's like a low, it's like a line right there and a line right there. That'll take the tops off, because by doing that, especially with an even wider scraper, got my really wide one, by going like this and going like this and being careful not to go through the valleys, I'm going where it looks high, and I'm going where it looks high. It creates these rough spots where there's still diagonals, and it's real easy to see, and so it's easy to work this down. And so now I can go through and clean that up and do that, and I'll get rid of a lot of this undulation. I'll pull these high spots down. And I did, went over the whole thing once, and now I go it over again the other way, vertical, horizontal, and that'll take off a lot of this stuff. It'll show me the low spots. Now, if you have spots that pick out, and this is anytime you're dealing with stone, if you have what looks like a black spot, just for instance, because that's what you typically find in this Georgia stone, if you have a black spot and you go, oh no, that looks awful, I better try to cut away, or one of these, I better cut that out. You might find out if you dig on that you're going to have a black spot like that, because you don't know what's in that stone. So just say, yep, that's good with me. It's the way that stone was made, and I'm fine. I don't need to know any more than that. Just leave it alone, because you'll open up Pandora's box. All right. Back in the morning, and the easy way to do this, because we've got these slight humps, is to just go where it's humped a little bit and just put a little bit of red pencil, okay? Don't scrub it in there really hard and get it way down deep where you gotta clear it. Just put a little bit on top just as a mark. You can rub your thumb, but the pencil's a little easier to see, but you can see where it's humped out just a little bit in between that and the square. Now, when you're working like this, you got to figure, it'll help if you figure out a way to keep your square handy. Because if you have to set a chisel down, reach over to something, pick this up, check it, and then set this down and go back with your chisel, it's a lot. If you set up a stand, and I'm probably just going to move a stand around or something here, maybe I'll even lean one of these blocks up against the back of the stone so I can set this just on the block. It doesn't have to be fancy. All right, now I got a place to put my stand, my square for just a second. Then I can just reach, I don't have to turn around and move my station and lose my focus. It's really, really, really easy. And I've talked about this before. When you carve marble, you just stay there and you cut it and you cut it and you cut it and you cut it. When you carve granite, you do a little bit of work and you have to take your tools, go over, sharpen them. And so every few minutes, every short period of time, you're going away and coming back, and it's really easy to come back and say, wow, that place looks like crap. Even though I'm supposed to be working right here, it's close enough that I get mixed up if this is marked. And so I start addressing this, and then I address, well, here it is here. And instead of staying in a nice organized fashion, it's easy to get distracted. So get a habit, get used to it. But I'll mark those off, the little bits of red, and I'll clean them up, check them with my square, and we get this edge axed all up. It's brighter out today, so it's not as easy to see, but we'll work with it. Okay, overall, this is all nice and tight now, all the way down. There's a couple spots with just a little bit of rock, but really, really good for what we want. Now we Remember I talked about doing your crown, having your panels crowned? Okay, this is a panel, and it'll crown this way just a tiny bit, just barely. It'll also crown this way a little bit. But right now, you're still a little too much crown. I don't know if you can see that. There's a little too much crown right here. So what I got to do is I got to work this off and keep it square and blend it so that it goes in, and then this should be a lot closer. I don't want a lot of crown, because the problem with having too much crown this way is that it'll create an overhang, and then that overhang will cast a shadow, okay? So we want to blend that as much as we can. It still kicks in a little bit here at the top, but that's okay, because we don't want that top edge to be like exaggerated, like this is an exaggeration. You don't want it to overhang. We want it to blend really well so it goes into this side. It comes down, because right now if I put this straight edge here, it pulls in at the top a little bit. It's high right here, but it's higher right here. And so this is a 4-foot piece that's, you know, pretty straight. But I'm going to take and work this off to try to eliminate that rock. Okay, so I'm going to get to work on it. The thing about axing, like this for example, is you'll put this on here and it'll have some tip. This is exaggerated. When you first start, you'll have some give. It's a tiny bit right there where I push in, but I can go down, all of a sudden, there's no rock. It doesn't rock back and forth. And you'll have a fulcrum, you know, where it's high, and it may be a wide platform, it may be a wide area that's high, but as you lower that, it stops, it changes the way it rocks, and you got to be really careful not to get aggressive. Just go slow and make sure to blend the whole fulcrum down and pull the whole thing down. Like I said, I don't want it to be perfectly flat. I mean, I'd love it to be absolutely flat, guaranteed, but this is really, really good. And as I took it down, I made sure to transfer it across so I don't have a dip in the middle where I'm reading it. But boy, this is nice and tight. Not a bunch of play in there. It's pretty good for an old stone cut. So I got a little bit of transfer from rust on the end of this. I'm just going to wash it off real careful, and you know, with a chisel, just so there's not anything sitting on the stone. Because if you leave, and it's important when you put your straight edge, whatever your straight edge is, and your ruler is, that you place it on the stone. Don't scrub it up and down the stone, or don't drag it across the stone to check it. You know, you may see, like when I'm doing clay, I'll use a straight edge to screed off a background, you know, the ground on the back. I'll put wedge clay on, and then I'll screed it in order to pack it, in order to have a nice flat background. But you can't do that on the stone. It'll ruin your straight edge. And if you have a little bit of rust on here, like I had just a tiny bit right there, right there. If I leave this, you know, we're going into, you know, it's winter. It's early February. Soil weather's up and down here, but we'll have days when it's the temperature's just right will come in, and the stone will have condensation on it. And what you don't want is to have obvious areas where you've got some, you know, ferrous metals, some steel or iron or whatever on there. that can sit there and get wet and cause a rust stain on the stone, because you may be able to put some stain lift on it, get it out. And so all we're doing is that's pretty, makes me pretty happy. All right. I'm gonna go up and check this. I think this is a good spot. This side's, right now it's done. I'm good with it. I may put a line on it, but I don't know that I will. I think I'll wait. Now, when I develop this face is when I'll make it 8 inches. Probably make it closer to, you know, a little over 8, maybe make it 8 3/16 or whatever, because I've still got to axe this back face, and I know I'm going to lose a small amount of dimension off that. It's not going to be a lot, but I don't want to make this perfectly 8 right now, and then cut this face and cut this face. I've already committed my edges, and now it ends up being 7 7/8 or 7 3/4, and all of a sudden it isn't cool, because part of what's going to happen when we install the stone, this stone is going to be 8 inches is a standard dimension in the cemetery, and sort of everything is, that's like the baseline. When you've got an upright die, 8 inches is the standard, and if you've got something that's thinner, it usually denotes that it was a cheaper job. Okay, if you've got something, I'm going to turn this on. If you got something that's thinner, it usually denotes it's a less expensive job, smaller. It may be in a section in the cemetery. A lot of cemeteries are, they have designated areas where you can only have a 6-inch die, you can only have an 8-inch die, you can only have, and it's a lot of times you'll find that in larger cities, whatever, where, you know, that's just the way they got the cemetery set up. Some places are flat marker areas, you know, you can't put uprights. But 8 inches is a standard. And if we do this job, 6 foot tall at 8 inches is a skinny die. Usually this would be like a 10-inch or a 12-inch or 1/0 die. 8 inches is thin for this much height, but it's okay. If we make this die just under 8 inches, because I accidentally laid it out and cut it back, and all of a sudden ends up being just under 8 inches, that's enough to make it stand out, because the height of this die is going to visually narrow this cross section, going to make this look smaller anyways. And we don't want to do anything to it where somebody will say, huh, that's a great stone, but it looks weird. And they come up and they measure and they find out that this is only 7 inches. If the cemetery doesn't have restrictions, that's no problem, but it reflects on the balance of the job. It's just, I don't know, it just doesn't look right. And it's like being a chef and doing a really, really gorgeous, you know, piece of beef on a plate and all this other stuff, and then sending it to the table with a bottle of ketchup. You know, you got the Chateaubriand or whatever, or you've got a really nice filet or a ribeye, and you've done all this work with perfect vegetables, and you send it out there with ketchup, okay? You just kind of blew it. Maybe ketchup is great on it, and if the customer wants ketchup on it, that's great, but I'm not gonna promote that as the chef. You know, just like I'm not gonna serve a cheeseburger, you know, with demi-glace and say, oh, well, this is really nice sauce. It took me 3 days to make this reduction, and you should appreciate it. You know, they're gonna go, look, dude, I want ketchup for my burger and my fries, okay? Not some 3-day fancy uppity sauce that just costs $15 for a side of sauce. So understand the application. But I think I'm gonna break this video off. And I might even be a little bit short. I don't really know where we're at on time. But I'm gonna start working on laying this out and doing some detail on the feather to try to get this edge figured out so we can start carving the angel, because at this point I'm finished working on this. We'll have to come back to it as we produce this face and finish this edge around the wings, but there's no reason to do all that work right now. We gotta get this wing laid out and figure out everything what we're doing. You know, we're in just a tiny bit from the edge of that model, because the way this is laid out, this is closer to the wing because we've got this small plinth sticking out down here, and so that changes it just a little bit. But we're gonna do our direct carving, and I think she's gonna be great. I'm really looking forward to it. So we'll get started, and I may stop and do a video. We've had questions about pricing and money and all that other stuff, and I've been trying to think of how to put it together in a way that makes sense. Because, you know, you're gonna have to learn how to quote and bid this type of work, and it's not real straightforward. I may try one of those next, so we'll see. I'm working on it in my head while I'm carving. But anyways, my name's Clinton Button. I'm a granite sculptor here at Carolina Sculpture Studio with a Virtual Stone Carving Apprenticeship. Thanks for coming in.